Welcome back to JRG Guitars Up. Today is the second episode in our Strat modification / experimentation build. In our previous episode, we left off as we scalloped that fretboard and it started to take shape. In this episode, we're going to do a little bit more work on that neck, see if we can't fix some scratch and dent areas on the back of the fretboard, see if I can figure out how to level this fretboard when it's been so heavily modified with that scalloping. We'll do fretwork, we'll see if we can't shine them up and make them look and feel nice, and we'll start to take a look at the electronics that are going to come together in this build when it's all put together at the end. Before we dive into it though, I'd like to ask if you're liking this type of content, if you like the first video and you want to see where this project goes, I urge you to please hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for notifications. You'll see when the next video is coming out for you. But as of now, why don't we get right after this one? All right, so here we are at the 12th fret. I put some tape on here. When I was getting this scalloped out here, the double fret markers that sit at the 12th fret, I went too deep and they popped out, which tells me since it was curved a little bit, it's a little close, and they just didn't have enough, so they popped out. So I am going to drill new fret markers, and then I'm just going to mix crazy glue with a little bit of baking soda, which you can use to sort of make a nut. If I had some epoxy or something, I might even just try to dip that in there, but I don't have anything like that. So we're going to drill some holes in here. I have this little bit, I believe they call these a spade bit because it has the point. That should be able to keep me right on target. And then this should be a nice clean hole because I have the tape on there. Hopefully I don't have any tear out. And then I'll be able to put in my little mixture, and hopefully then once it dries up, sand it out and be on our way. So I'm going to mark these in here. I've got my calipers out. I estimate about 12 centimeters in from each side should give me about what I'm looking for. So I'm going to mark it. We're going to drill it in just a little bit. I don't need to go too far. I don't really want to go into the neck. I just want to penetrate the fretboard. And then while I'm at it, I'll probably kiss all of these, flood in a little bit of crazy glue on all of them, and just so they seat in there, because I don't know how much these are held on by either. So we're going to give that a shot. Coming in with my caliper, and I just marked my edge from both spots, and then I'll measure the width of the fret opening as well and mark that center, and then we'll be good to go. That should be it. So then we're just going to come in with my little spade, and we're just going to give it a tiny tap. So we'll set that hole, do the same thing here. Give it a little tap. Here goes nothing. Well, you can see it went white, which means I got into the fretboard, or into the neck, but whatever is. Extremely clean. That looks great. All right, so here we go. We've got some super glue, the original. I've got some baking soda and a little applicator. I'm gonna put a dot in, put some in, we're gonna mix it, we're gonna just see how it goes. So, a little bit in, a little bit in, and we'll apply some. My sacrificial mixing tool. We'll just sort of pack it down a little bit, and then I don't know how to do this. Maybe a little bit more. Oh God, that's a lot. Okay, and then a little bit more. Then we'll get a little bit there, and then a little bit on top. A little bit more on top. Okay, so here we are, giving it some dry time. We'll knock off some excess. See what we got here. Just gonna try and shave some of this off here. gonna go much more than that. So I don't take much more off, but that looks pretty good. I'll leave this now to the sanding as opposed to the filing, which will take more off. Looks good. Okay, so I've got one more area that I want to address, and that's right here at this fret where I got a little bit close to the side dot marker. So as I was going along, shaving all this down, I saved a lot of the sawdust from this, knowing that I might have some patchwork to do, and I knew early on this would be one area. So I plan on doing the same thing I did here with these dots in here. I'm just going to fill this up, but instead of using the white of the baking powder or soda, whatever it was, I'm going to use some of this sawdust here, and then I'll sand it back down. So as not to make a ton more work for myself, let's see if I can be a little bit smart and just build up a spot here so it won't roll over the edge. Just put a little bit of this glue down. That should be good. Just a little bit of the sawdust. One more drop on top, if I can get it to want to behave. There we go.
Perhaps it's a good time now to hit that like button, press that subscribe button.
All right, sufficient dry time here. Peel this off, that helped me. Oh yeah, seems pretty hard. Clean this up a little bit. Actually cleaned up pretty well. There was a nice gap there. A little more sanding. I don't want to go too aggressive, but boy, that really kind of did the trick nicely. There's a slight mark right here which you can just barely see. That is what got the guitar discounted from Harley Benton when it arrived like this, and I said, hey, can we just get a little bit off? And they actually steeply discounted the guitar more than I thought, which was very nice, but that's what sort of brought me to where I am here now. So I'm going to take all of this finish off on this, and I like a nice unfinished neck. I might put some true oil or something, but we're going to take that off for sure. Here we go. So we have this little mark here. Now that I've sanded away the finish, I'm going to try to use a little heat with my soldering iron and some steam to raise it up. Let's see if we can kind of get there. So we just have this wet cloth. I put my soldering iron on there. It helps those grains expand. So where that dent occurred, maybe it'll come out a little bit. See if we can't just sand it off a little bit. I think it was right here. I can't feel it with my nail. Success. This is difficult with the notch straight edge. So I pulled out just a level that I have in the garage, and I checked it against the notch straight edge. And this level is pretty true. So I'm going to use that instead of the notch straight edge because it's too difficult to try and get this thing, adjusting the truss rod to get the tops of the frets as flat as I can make them. Then we'll go through a crowning process. So here we are down at a level where you can look and you can see, God, it's hard to focus. That is touching there. It's actually pretty good all the way along. There's a couple of spots that aren't perfect, but boy, is it ever touching on the ends. There's just a couple of frets that aren't perfect, but that's what I thought. So this now puts me at a truss rod adjustment where I can crown and level the frets and feel pretty confident that when I put it on the guitar, string it up to tension, it's going to pull the neck this way. I'll be able to put a little bit of more relief in that truss rod to bring it back down, and I'll have a really nice level playing surface.
Now moving into the fretwork side of things, so I come here with my Sharpie and mark all these frets so I can crown, then level these. So the first process here is to level them all down to the same level. So the Sharpie mark is there to help me know how far to sand this down with my leveling beam. Once all that Sharpie has disappeared, I come through and I Sharpie them up again. Then I come in with my tool and this crowns the fret. This gets it nice and rounded over.
So we're looking for a nice thin line on there.
So my tool of choice is the StewMac Z file, and as you make your passes on each fret and turn the file over back and forth, it creates a really nice crown with a perfect spot on the crown point of an intonation spot, and that's what that thin line is all about. It tells you you've taken everything away except that nice top of the fret for a perfect crown.
I go back and forth with what is best, what is easiest, and different things like that. So I have good old steel wool that I've used, which does a nice job. I also have a set of fret erasers that go in various grits up to 2000 grit. Those do a nice job.
So this is the point of really doing the finishing process on these frets. So I've got some steel wool that I've hit them with, and some of the more scuffed up areas I went with sandpaper, 600,000 grit, and then I go through with my fret erasers there and try and get them nicely shined up without any of the tool marks, to where I can then come in with the rotary tool with some polishing compound and really get them up to a nice shine. And then I can take all the tape off here and we give a nice reveal of the frets.
All right, so the tape off. Now we'll come on with some of my F1 oil just to hydrate this fretboard after all we've done to it. So here we are. That fretboard came to life pretty nicely. Pretty nice. Off camera, I sanded off the front of the headstock, getting rid of the Harley Benton little logo.
So a weird thing happened on my footage here. Something strange happened and it just didn't capture the footage correctly. So it's a little bit choppy here, but you can see what I've done here. I take my water slide decal that I've printed out, I soak it in water, and then I just transfer it over to this wood and delicately get it down there. Turns out pretty well.
So here we are back. I've got my Minwax wipe-on poly, which I've had good success with in the past. I'm just going to put a lot of coats of this on. I'm going to start pretty thin because I don't want to have that thing come up at all. And then we'll see how we do. So I've taped off where the part of that darker fretboard material, which I don't know if it's rosewood, whatever it is, just to protect it a little bit. I'm going to go easy around the decal itself.
All right, now time to get electrified. So remove that pick guard and it would enable me to work with this. So I pulled off that bridge pickup, putting my JB Junior in there and then just wiring it up, making sure that everything is in there nicely. Just looked up some stuff online. The Seymour Duncan website is fantastic. Also, the insert that you can see sitting there that came with the pickup tells me exactly how to wire it. Here I'm drilling the hole for the mini toggle that I'm putting in, which will enable me to split and manipulate the two individual coils that's in that pickup. I'm wiring this up for a series, split, and parallel operation on the bridge pickup only. Nothing else is going to be involved in the wiring other than the 5-way selector, a volume, and a tone.
Here we are from the top down. You can see I have my hole because I moved my volume and my tone down here so I won't knock into that anymore. I also added the switch here so that I can take the humbucker here, which it really is a humbucker in a single coil size, configuration. It can run series, which is just standard humbucking mode. This thing puts out close to 15K, so it's a pretty high output. It is a JB, the JB Junior they call it. That's if I have it down here, which is going to be in your standard series wiring. When I put the switch to the middle, it splits and knocks off one of the coils, so it cuts it roughly in half down to about 7.5 or something like that. And then finally, when I put it up here, instead of the humbucker running in series, which means the signal comes through, goes through all the way through one coil, all the way through the next coil, that gives you your most power. It'll run it in parallel, which means the signal comes in and it runs through one coil and the other coil sort of separately in parallel. And that cuts the output down even again in half of what the split was. So it's almost like a full power, half power, quarter power, and it's just a different kind of a sound there. And then when I look on the back here, you can see it was tough to tell from the camera angles earlier, all the soldering that was done. I just followed a schematic, and then I went in with my trusty multimeter and just double checked everything so the signal path would run correctly. I can never remember how to hook up a tone control, so again, I just had to look up a schematic to figure that one out. So now the only thing I will have will be one hookup right here, which will be the main output. That'll be the hot going to the output jack, and then a ground, which really could come off of any grounding location. So probably just come off of one of the pots.
So now rolling into this final setup here, just wiring up the output jack. I do try to then put a little bit of shrink tubing on top of them so that there's no possibility that anything comes in contact and grounds or shorts itself out. So here, just wiring these up, and then I'll insert it into the body and then just wire it up to the rest of the electronics.
All right, so the other thing I'm going to do is put my set of Schaller locking strap locks on here. All right, there we go. Another episode in the books. Thank you for staying alive here till the end of the video. Always appreciate it. So this was a nice one. This guitar really starting to take shape. So here in the future will come tidying everything up, all the loose ends, getting everything set up perfectly to hopefully look and feel and sound very good. So thank you very much for tuning in here to JRG Guitars. One more quick ask of you: if you're liking the content and want to see where this project goes, I urge you, click that like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for future notifications. You'll see when the next video is coming out for you. So thank you very much here from JRG Guitars. We'll see you on the next one.
JRG Guitars!